Another November, another dive getaway to the Keys. These November getaways have become a tradition that started 6 or 7 years ago. When Irvin and Candy visit her mother for the holidays, we attempt a short getaway to the Keys for some diving. It's not only diving. Last year we did a motorcycle ride from Key Largo to Key West and back. This year is special to me. It marks my half-century or 50th anniversary of diving. So what influenced me to start diving? Well, I guess as a kid I was fascinated with searching for shipwrecks or treasure. That fascination was only amplified by films like The Creature from the Black Lagoon, Jacques Cousteau, and Sea Hunt was one of my favorite TV series. I loved Thunderball. The underwater battle scene was the largest underwater movie set ever. Shark's Treasure was a low-budget treasure hunting film. And for me, The Deep was the ultimate underwater adventure film. And then there was Clive Cussler's Raise the Titanic, which was released in 1980, but the wreck wasn't actually discovered until 1985. So here I am, 71 years old, and about to make my 50th year anniversary dive. At my age, I was hoping to dive something a little more shallow, like the Christ of the Abyss. Unfortunately, the only dive available today was the Spiegel Grove, so a deep wreck dive it will be. Well, at least the seas are flat today. To dive the Spiegel Grove without a guide, the dive shop requires a certification of advanced open water diver, or better, which wasn't an issue for us. Our dive plan on this dive was simple. Keep it around 90 feet, dive into the current, do a little filming, and maybe do a swim by of the flag. Then roughly at 1250 to 1500 psi, let the current take us back to the ascent line. We will perform our safety stop, get back on the boat, and chalk one up for my half-century of diving. And in the distance, we have a shark. This is my 12th dive on the Spiegel Grove, and for some reason, sharks enjoy cruising the perimeter of the wreck. The Spiegel Grove, the Duane, and the Vandenberg are fun wrecks to dive. They are full of marine life and are relatively safe to penetrate. But they are missing the historical element. They are not actual wrecks, but were sunk to become artificial reefs. Most of my diving was off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina, and most of those wrecks are actual shipwrecks. The dive ends, and we ascend to our safety stop. The surface condition is amazing for November. Our dive plan for our second dive was to let the current carry us to the bridge area, stay at around 90 feet, and slowly return towards the ascent line on the interior of the wreck. Using the interior to escape the current makes the dive a little more pleasant, especially for the lead diver. But the lead diver needs to be cognizant of fin wash, so sediment isn't stirred up, thereby ruining the visibility for the following diver. This is very important, especially if the following diver is shooting video. Penetrating the Spiegel Grove and the Vandenberg is fun and relatively safe due to all of the escape holes cut into the overhead and the bulkheads. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I like diving the wrecks off of Virginia and North Carolina, but there are several drawbacks. The good wrecks require a 2 to 3 hour trip each way. They were deep, usually 120 feet plus. The visibility was very unpredictable, 10 to 15 feet one day to 90 feet plus a week later. And they were cold, definitely wetsuit or better. Time's up. We exit the wreck and return to the ascent line. We bid farewell to the doorman of this world as we begin our ascent. Many changes have occurred in my last 50 years of diving. The laws in physics haven't changed, but the technologies have exploded. Certifications and equipment offered today didn't become available until a decade or 2 decades after I started diving. But I'm okay with that. At this stage in my life, the AOW certification has been sufficient for most of the dives I care to make. On our trip back in, Irvin checks his messages while I kick back and enjoy the scenery. At this time of the year, the sun is setting as the afternoon trips return. Tomorrow, we will be making a morning dive and return early enough to make a 1:30 tea time. I've made a lot of passes through this channel over the years. The captain issues his final instructions before docking. Unfortunately for shipwrecks, Irvin and I have another favorite spot picked out for dinner tonight. Today we're heading out to Dry Rocks Reef in the Florida Marine Sanctuary to visit Christ of the Abyss. Many divers consider this a mere tourist attraction, but today I requested this dive because, after all my years of diving, I have never visited the site. In some ways, the significance of this monument represents my last 50 years of diving. The Christ of the Abyss is an 8.5-foot tall bronze statue of Jesus Christ, created by Italian sculptor Guido Gaglietti. It represents Christ in the new world below the waves, a memorial for the people who lost their lives at sea, and a monument to those who continued to dive beneath it. It particularly honors the first Italian to use scuba gear, Dario Gonzatti. The statue's raised arms are an invitation to divers, symbolizing a welcoming gesture to those who venture beneath the waves. This iconic landmark is actually the third of its kind, cast from the original Italian mold. The original was lowered into the Mediterranean Sea on August 22, 1954, just off San Frutuoso on the Italian Riviera. 7 years later, a second bronze sculpture was submerged on October 22, 1961, off the coast of St. George's, Grenada, as a gift from Italy. The Italian dive equipment manufacturer, Cresci, donated the third and final sculpture to the Underwater Society of America. Key Largo was eventually agreed upon as its best eternal home. On August 25, 1965, the bronze statue was submerged in the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. In the past, I heard rumors that the reef around the monument had been destroyed, but this reef looks pretty healthy to me. The coral looks good and the marine life is abundant. Earlier, I was comparing the wrecks off of Virginia and North Carolina to those in the Keys. Well, when the subject shifts to reefs, there is no comparison. On the East Coast, the Keys are the only place you will find reefs like this. They are truly in pristine condition, and that is one of the reasons I love diving the Keys. I think most divers today recognize the need to protect the reefs and preserve them for future generations. The best way to continue this trend is through mentoring the new divers. I like to think of the reef as an underwater zoo, where you can drift along and observe hundreds of species in their natural habitat. Trumpetfish are one of my favorite to watch. What makes them interesting is their predatory and defensive behavior. In both cases, they assume a vertical position to blend in with coral, to ambush prey, or to defend themselves from other predators. Down here, the show never ends. Well, after 50 years, I finally made a dive on Christ of the Abyss, and we are now moving to a different section of the reef for our final dive. Can the next reef be that much better? We are soon to see. As our second dive begins, I ask myself, of all the reefs I have seen over the last 50 years, which ones are equal to or better than the Keys? I have to think about that, but for now, I want to watch another of my favorite fish, the spotted trunkfish. They are comical both in shape and movement, but when touched, their skin secretes a toxin. However, the toxin is only dangerous if ingested. Now back to the reefs. Only two come to mind: 7 Mile Beach of Grand Cayman, especially the north end, and Cozumel's Palanca Reef. And I have to confess, the KSL banks are pretty spectacular. I haven't been to the Red Sea, or Truck Lagoon, or the Great Barrier Reef, or Cuba, but of all the locations I have dove in the Caribbean, the Keys can't be beat when you consider both reefs and wrecks. I'm sure the other locations are equally as beautiful, but I just haven't been there. This spotted angelfish, doesn't appear to be alarmed at my presence at all. Another fact about the trumpet fish: in the entire world, there are only 3 different species of them. Well, our last dive this weekend has come to an end, and I couldn't have asked for better conditions. Perhaps the Christ of the Abyss blessed me for my half-century of diving anniversary. On the trip back in, Irvin wanted to show a shirt he wore in memory of Michael, a young man who loved whales. As children, we all have had dreams, and naturally as we age, our dreams can change. As a child, I had 2 dreams that lasted the ages. The first was to serve in our nation's military. I retired as a Master Chief from the U.S. Navy Seabees after 23 and a half years of service. My second dream was simple. I wanted to dive. I accomplished that goal on July the 21st, 1975, and here I am, over 50 years later, and I have just completed my 50-year anniversary dive. I don't know how many more dives I have left. All I can say is that I will enjoy them one at a time.